Hello everybody, good evening, good morning from wherever you're watching in the world. Welcome. It is Wednesday night and that of course can only mean one thing. The return once again of Flashpoint Racing League here from the glorious Singapore Grand Prix circuit. A new Singapore Grand Prix circuit must be said. Some of the drivers of course will have to deal with that when going through onto the grid. I'm sure a lot of them would have been doing quite a few laps around this track thinking that it was going to be the old layout, but obviously not today. We have the new layout, which we will take on board with one of the drivers as soon as they come out the pit lanes. Looking at the moment like a few of the guys are coming out now, potentially one of the Alpines and the Williams cars as well. But for anybody who wasn't here last week, I was not here myself. I was away unfortunately, so I had to hand over commentary duties, and what a brilliant commentary it was, it must be said. But it was Kay Gatkowski taking his first win of the season, which was really good to see in the Mercedes. A man who of course has had so many close calls in getting victories this season, not quite been able to get it, but now has finally got the result that he wanted, and that has catapulted him into championship contention. So going through the championship standings before we of course get through into qualifying, as one of the Williams almost goes wide there. But NXX Selly once again Mr. Consistent, 3 wins this season, been at every single event, and he's leading the championship from Kay Gatkowski by 15 points. The man who of course won last time out in Japan. And of course Cucumber as well, a man who got a really good win in Hungary at the Hungaroring. Great race from him. He's sandwiched in 3rd place. And the man of course who was leading the championship earlier on in the season, Limitless, who wasn't here last week, quite a few frustrating races for himself, only 92 points now. But those are the drivers who really are within a shout of this championship with 5 races left to go. This is a new section of track then, as you can see from Anru here in the Williams, and you can see we've cut out the entire Mickey Mouse section under the bridge and so on, which hopefully could give us better overtaking and better racing. But let's ride on board with a lap with himself as we go through the final corner now to start his qualifying lap. So going towards turn 1 now, let's keep it all the way to the right hand side, which he does do, opens up the track as much as possible, keeps it tight, doesn't want to get invalidation here, and thankfully for himself has not, so that's a good start, and keeps it nice and wide. Oh, a bit of oversteer on the exit, but with that said, it didn't look too bad. Opens it once more and then chucks it into this corner here, 4th gear. You can get on the throttle so much earlier in this corner than you could last time out in F122, and of course flat out section here, no worries. Going through that kink on the right side, then down a few gears now, gets into 8th gear, flicks it down into 3rd gear, doesn't quite touch the apex on the inside, but does get over the curl on the right. Wants to make sure this really slow section, he doesn't lose too much time here. And it looks at the moment as he short shifts and goes through, he's not going to, but he hits the curb and that could send him wide, and it did, almost into the barrier, but for himself, thankfully, he didn't quite hit it, so it's going to be a very conservative lap in the Williams at the moment. But let's see what he can do, as he almost loses a rear end again, a very scruffy lap from him. This is not the lap that he's going to want to start his session off with. It looks to me it's going to be a very conservative lap. The first man to, of course, cross the start-finish line. We'll see the Alpine of NSX Cucumber, the man who's won a race this season. Let's see what he can do as he goes through the middle sector now. It looks to me like he's already got the car a bit more hooked up. You got a yellow flag of, I believe, one of the Hasses in the first sector. I'm not sure if he's had a crash or just getting out of the way, potentially just getting out of the way. But at the moment, Cucumber looks somebody who has got more pace in that Alpine than of course the Williams did. So let's see what he can do as he goes through the middle sector split. 103.4, not too bad. Of course the middle sector split would have been slightly different, but of course not anymore, considering that it's just a straight line section now going through towards the final section of the track. A much harder way to go through is a 30.3. That will be beaten by NAL Walcott, surely by Cucumber as he comes through the final section of corners now. Mavros 128.2, a good lap time for himself. What can Cucumber do? Yes, 28 flat. He gets the fastest lap overall. Let's ride on board now with the championship leader as he comes out of the pits. Is he starting? He's like, yeah, not quite started yet. What about Limitless? I'll be interested to see what he's doing. 103.6 from him in the middle sector. Of course, a man who missed it last time out and has not had the best few run of races, as Volcano comes in at 27.9, first man into 27's great lap time for himself. Let's see what Limitless can do now as Carl goes P3, then followed up by Spanias in the Ferrari. He takes his place at P3. What about Limitless as it goes across the line now? What lap time can he do? And it's only a 28.3, again a man who doesn't usually have the best qualifying efforts, usually comes to alive in the race. As we have another yellow flag in the middle sector as again for one of the Hasses, I do believe. So as Destroy goes across the line as well, all the drivers starting to put initial laps through, and we're getting to see what people can do now. So let's see what Selly can do, of course. About to start his lap, surely, as he goes through the final part of the lap now. Igor as well as Anru didn't actually even finish his lap because he didn't realise how bad it was. He went back into the pits. Well, let's see what Igor can do. Going through the middle sector now. He's got another yellow flag in sector 1. I think it's just one of the drivers going slowly. Yes, it is. Touch the inside of the apex with a hairpin. And it looks to me like it's a nice, clean section so far for him. Let's see what he can do as he goes to the middle sector. One of the 3.6 as well, so this is very similar to Limitless's time. So let's see what Igor can do. Doesn't want to run it too wide there because for some reason you do actually get a bit of an invalidation. I can still pop through if you run it too wide in that corner there, even though it is right up to the wall. So let's see if he chucks it into this final few corners now. Quick right, quick left, puts it right up to the wall now. Bit of contact potential with the wall there. Chucks it into the final 2 corners. 2 quick left-handers want to cut that curve as much as possible. Gun it for the line. What time can he do? It's 28.4 and it's P9 so far for Igor. Let's see now what Gatkowski's up to. He's going through into the hairpin now as well at the end of the middle sector. Of course, the man who won last time out in Japan, the man on form, a man who's really thrown himself into championship contention. Let's see what he's doing as he goes to the middle sector. It's 103.1, so already 5 tenths quicker. Purple middle sector. It's looking really good for Gatkowski. If he can keep it together in his last few corners, guns it now down the straight, can't lose any time here like he could previously in this game with the previous layout. Chucks it into the right-hander and the left now. Let's see what his last sector can give him. Will he get up towards the wall? Yes, he does, not leaving any room there. Chucks it into the final few corners, cuts the inside just like everybody else. Let's see what he can do as he comes across the line, and it's pole position currently at 27.7 by almost 2 tenths of a second. Great lap time from Gatkowski. Let's see what Selly's doing. It looks to me like he's going through the middle sector split now. Yes, he is. He couldn't quite get the time that he's got, but it looks like he's there or thereabouts with the time that's up there for pole position on the first few rows of the grid, definitely. So let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can keep it together in this final bit. Cuts the curves a little bit more than Gatkowski, and because that runs it wide, hits the barrier on the outside. Hopefully no damage for himself. Chucks it into the final corner. Doesn't take the curve. Let's see what he can do as it comes across the line now. Is it going to be close? Yes, it is, but it's only P2. And 127.866. So Selly and Gatkowski once more separated by hundredths, thousandths, and tenths of a second, just like they have been the last few races. So Selly, after the first run, sticks it into P2, and Gatkowski is in P1 currently. Everybody else seems to have gone back into the pits. I believe the Haas driver as well of Frankis is coming back into the pits. Yes, he is. He's on an in-lap, as is Igor. So please tell me, guys, in the comments down below who you think is on for a win today, because I think a lot of these drivers, you know, they've not had the races that they've wanted. They've not really had the season that they've wanted. I think especially Limitless as well coming back. You know, a man who won 2 races earlier on in the season, some great races for himself, and then it kind of went pear-shaped for him. So intrigued to see what he could do as we go through this qualifying session. So Gatkowski, like we say, Alcy in front at the moment. Frankis coming back into the pit lane now. Yes, he is. So we're just waiting for a few drivers to start their laps now. I believe the Haas driver as he goes in. I believe the Mercedes as well is coming back into the pit lane. Yes, of Gatkowski, of course. Selly will be coming back in the pits as well. But Volcano, he's a man that I want to look out for. On his outlap now, first of the top runners, I believe, to be on the track. No, of course, we've got Cucumber as well. What about the Ferrari of Spanias? Yes, he's in front there too. So let's see as we go through the rest of the grid who's out here. So yeah, I believe it's going to be Spanias of the top 5 drivers who's going to be the first one to cross the line and start his next lap. So intrigued to see what he can do. Looking the number 99 there on the Ferrari as well. I'm sure he'll absolutely love to go up there. A man who has shown a lot of good pace. I must have said a lot of good pace in that Ferrari, but it's never really come together for him. You know, last time out as well, had a great race in Japan, but didn't quite get that race victory. He's a man, of course, who will want to be getting that sooner rather than later. So, let's see what he can do. Starts his lap now, opens up his DRS. Let's see what the lap time is as he goes towards turn 1. And you can see all the drivers, they like to keep the track nice and wide there going through into turn 1, because of course that opens up the section here into turn 3. A very easy corner to lose traction on, but he's done very well there. Keeps it to the left hand side, shortest distance to the next corner. Goes through now, opens up his DRS, no time to be lost here, of course. It's just a full throttle section. Up into 8th gear. Or does he keep it in 7th? No, he goes into 8th gear. Breaks down now towards 3rd gear. Yes, clips the curb on the inside. Runs it all that wide. Oh, that was very close to invalidation, but thankfully for himself, he doesn't get it. Keeps it nice and tight to the apex there. Looks like a clean lap so far for Spanias, but of course he needs to find some time if he wants to get towards the top drivers of Gatkowski and Selly. So chucking it into the next section here where the Singapore Sling used to be, of course, up until they changed it in 2013. This section here opened up as well compared to the old one. Oh, as he always loses the back, but I think he's gained it back. Yes, he has. Keeps the car going. Good traction out of this section as well. Opens up the DRS. Of course, we'll be able to see how his time is going through the middle sector split. Now, what is it? He's actually down in his time by 600ths of a second. But, of course, he can gain that now as we go through the final section. So he's 600 down on his own time. So that means he's 4 tenths down on pole position. If he can get a few spots up, though, if he gets a good few last corners, I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Clips the curb on the inside. Clips the curb once again. Runs it out wide. Doesn't quite hit the wall. He's going to chuck it into this final corner. If he wants to make sure of gaining any positions here, what can he do as he comes across the line now? Is it going to be a better time? Yes, it is. He's up into P4. Outdoes Cucumber, who invalidates his time and goes into the pit lane, so no response from himself. What about the rest of the drivers as they go through? Across the line now comes Limitless and goes P4 with that, so that's another lap time that he's going to be happy with. The 28 flat, I'm sure he'll be happy with that going through, considering his qualifying troubles at the moment. So the Red Bull Limitless up into P4. What about the other drivers then? Carl starts his lap now, and some of the other drivers as they come across the line now. Volcano comes across in his pole position, 27.779, exactly 100th of a second. Great lap for himself. I've said he was a man to look out for, and he definitely is as he puts in that lap time. Great time from himself, puts it through into pole position. Selly's now on his out lap. Gatkowski just starts his lap now, so it'll be interesting to see what his response will be. We'll keep an eye on the Mercedes there. But at the moment, it looks like nobody else is really on much of a lap apart from Carl, who apparently gets a purple first sector. Really interesting to see if that is true. If he gets purple first sector, maybe this could be a really good lap for him. Maybe it could be a case of he just has a lot less downforce on that car, of course. The first sector, as is the third sector now as well, a bit more straights. Oh, his car goes really wide there. Is he going to hit the wall? No. Surely they've lost a bit of time compared to everybody else. Odd circuit. Let's see what he can do, though, as we go through the middle sector split now. What time is it going to be? Is it going to be up on his time? He is indeed. 5 tenths of a second, a 3.1 in the middle sector. That's going to put him there or thereabouts with pole position. So let's see what Carl can do now. Going towards the final few corners. This will be a bit of an upset if he can get towards the front of the grid. Can he get pole position? Can he get to the front row? He clips the curves on the inside. Really good from him. Oh, but he loses the back. He's going to lose him a lot of time. Let's see as he goes through the final few corners. Now he chucks it in. He's going to have lost a few tenths there. But as he goes across the line now, it's P4 and a 27.9. He'll be raging in that cockpit because he definitely lost some time in those final few corners. But like I said before, we want to keep on board with the Mercedes of Gatkowski. What can he do? He's a 10th up on his time, so he's going to definitely be aiming for pole position. Runs it a little bit wide there, but can he hit as he goes towards the exit of the track? 2 more corners to go. Flicks it into the final few corners. Doesn't use the curb on the inside. Can he gun it towards the line? No, yes he can. And it's pole position. 27.765. Beats Volcano by 200th of a, sorry, just over 100th of a second. What about Selly? He's down in his time in the first. It hits the wall as well, so this is going to be dangerously close for Selly. So slowing down his time, chucks it into this next left-hander. Will he have got any damage there? Hopefully for his sake, no he hasn't, but he chucks it through now the middle centre onto the Anderson Bridge. What can he do as Carl, of course, goes P4. Frankis goes P5 as well in the sister half, so good result for them so far if it stays this way. But what about Selly, though, going towards the middle centre? Will he have lost time there? Looking for a low 3. He is up by 400ths of a second. This is really close to pole position time for Selly. So what can he do? Needs to find a 10th in the final sector. His last few corners weren't the best going into it as the last lap ended. So let's see now what he does. Can he keep it nice and tight on the inside of the curbs? Yes, he does. Will he get a nice exit? Yes, again, doesn't quite hit the wall this time, but he's going into the pit lane. He must have lost time. He's going into the pits. And this is going to be panic stations for Selly. Of course, P3. Still a good starting spot, but could be so much better. Gatkowski, though, the man on form. P1 at the moment. A man who, of course, got his first victory of the season out in Japan last week. And now look at him, as a man changed, he's definitely throwing himself into the title fight. Now, like I say, only 15 points behind the championship leader. So it'll be really intriguing to see what he can do. A man, of course, who has got pole position for once this season, but the man who's usually the pole position king is Selly, and of course Carl in the Haas with 2 pole positions. So let's see what they can do. Good to see Carl back up there once again in the Haas, 27.9 so far. He's a man I definitely would look out for this final part of qualifying. So the second runs are done. 1 more run to go. Driver's going to have to get out. Frankis into the pits too. He should have time to get back in. But it looks at the moment, as we see Cucumber. Oh, is he invalidated once more? Oh, maybe he has. Maybe. Oh, that's not looking good for Cucumber. I'm not too certain if he actually started up or if it's out. Yes, I think it is. It is indeed. And he's invalidated his lap. I mean, he's 1.3 seconds up, so maybe he was just cutting some corners to gain some time. But It looks to me like Cucumber, unless we can find ourselves getting another lap for him. Looks to me like it's going to be a session over for him as he goes into the pits. Yes, I think it is now session over. I don't think he's going to be able to get out in time. So looking at that, Cucumber, a horrible session for him. Let's have a look at Lezard now on his out lap. P12 at the moment in the Alfa Romeo. It'll be great to see him back in the top 10. Lezard, a driver who I must say I've raced with before in previous games, and a really clean driver, a really good driver to race with. And I must admit, it's really good to see him in this lobby here in Flashpoint Racing League, and it'd be good to see him back in the top 10. So let's see what he can do as he starts his final push lap here at the Singapore Grand Prix circuit, the changed Singapore Grand Prix circuit. Chucks it in, and then one of the Mercedes gets out of the way there. Hopefully, yes, it was Igor. Hopefully, got out of the way for him. Didn't get into any issues there. Another Haas gets out of the way as well, but Lezard chucks it into turn 5, and he hits the wall on the outside. A lot of the drivers not leaving any space against the rest of the track. But as he goes towards the end of the first set split, he is up by 300ths of a second, so this will be good to get him towards that top 10. He needs to find a 10th and a half if he wants to get into that top 10. Like we said, keeps it nice and tight to the apex. It's good to see. Let's see if he can keep it nice and tight to this corner as well, because a lot of the drivers are hitting it wide and hitting the wall. No, that looks pretty perfect to myself. There's some yellow flags flutter in the middle sector, but no, at the moment it looks to me like Lezard, as he chucks it through there, didn't get any validation, but he really chucks it through that curve. That's surprising for me to see. Goes in over the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin. Let's see what he can do now. The camera angle's not really the best for him, it must be said, so let's jump on board with him now. Potentially could get a slipstream. No, actually, the RB of an Alpha Tower, yes it is, gets out of the way there. So let's see what Lezard does. Oh, he gets nice and deep into that corner. That could have lost him a bit of time. It is going to cost him time, of course, all the way down this straight. It's now crucial to get a good exit from these corners, and he has not been able to do that. So as we go across the line now, one of the Ferraris, Lezard, he's lost it, completely lost it. And it looks like to me it's not going to be any improvement on his lap. He chucks it into the final corner and he invalidates just to top it off, spins it over the line, and that is not a good time for Lezard. So let's see what's happening with the Ferraris now. Ferrari going through, but one of the Alpha Tauris, I believe, going across the line now. Let's see what they're doing. Igor on his outlap as well. A lot of the drivers are just on outlaps currently, but it looks like Spanias, 2/10 up currently, as Walcott retired from the session. Has he crashed potentially? Possibly has done. But looking at this now, look at Spanias, 2/10 up on his current time. He needs to find another 10 in this final sector to challenge Gatkowski at the top of the boards. Let's see what he can do now. A good qualifier usually. He left a bit on the table there in the second to last corner, but he chucks it in now. Few more seconds to go across the line. What can he do? Oh, and it's so close to pole position. He's within a 10th of a second, only 900ths down on pole position, but it's P3 currently for Spanias. Selly down on his time in the first sector. What about the other drivers that are coming across the line now? Frank is starting his lap, and it looks to me like some of the drivers as Cucumber, yes, he tried to get out, and has he been able to start his lap? I think he has. I think he's had enough time. Yes, he has. He's been able to get out, but it looks to me at the moment like as we see one of the Alpha Tauris come across the line now, and it looks like he's going to improve. Yes, he does. Stefano goes up a few places there. Who else is going across the line now? Looks like it's going to be Mavros, who is up on his time by 1/10 of a second. He could chuck it in towards the top 5 now. What can he do as he goes across the line? Keeps it in P10, didn't quite improve. He lost a bit of time as one of the Ferraris goes across the line now. What can they do? Mavros goes up to P5. Great time from him to get it back up there after not the best start to his session, but yeah, Spanias is done as well. So let's see now as Selly goes across the line now. He's 2/10 up on his time. This could be very close to pole position. He could actually obliterate Gatkowski's time as he goes across the line now, and he does at 27.52. Look at that, almost 3/10 of a second, 2.6 tenths ahead of Gatkowski, but Gatkowski is not done yet. He's the man on the mission. He's up by 100th of a second in the first sector, almost up by 2/10 in the middle sector. So he has to find another 10th of a second, but he almost loses it as the car goes through. And look at that, Carl P2 as well. Great time from him in the Haas. Great time to get him back up into the front row of the grid. But Gatkowski's Volcano goes second as well, only 400ths off. Gatkowski's the man we're looking for now, though. He's the man who's on a mission to try and get pole position, snatch it back from Selly. Looks like he had a bit of a shocking final set, though. What can he do as he chucks it round the final corner now? Can he get anywhere near it? No! He does not get pole position by 600ths of a second. And as the drivers all come across the line, once again, the man who is so consistent is back on pole position. Selly 360. The man who leads the championship by 15 points from this man, Gatkowski, takes pole position once more. A great effort from Volcano as well to get on the front row of the grid. But Selly, Volcano, Gatkowski, and of course Cucumber separated by less than a 10th of a second. Great to see here in Flashpoint Racing. course, Carl as well, great qualifier. 2 pole positions already this season, 5th place for him. Followed by the 2 Ferraris, Limitless, again, not the best qualifying for him. And then L.R. Frankis, the Italian, and of course, Talisper in the McLaren, the top McLaren in the session in P10, and that rounds out the top 10 for us. But it looks to me like it's going to be a great race, and hopefully it is. Want to see some good racing here in Flashpoint, and usually we always get it. So just waiting for the lobby to start here at the Singapore Grand Prix circuit. Of course, Selly, once again, the man who is really consistent, and I think that's really why he's just doing so well in this championship at the moment. It's just the consistency that's really helped him throughout the season. Not just the first few races, but throughout the entire season. Really consistent, and really always put himself in the position to get consistent podiums. So let's see what he can do from pole position. A man who, let's not forget, he doesn't usually have the best of starts. So Volcano on, of course, the dirty side of the grid, but of course on the front row. We'll want to see if he can get him down into turn 1 before the squiggly section that ends after turn 3. So just waiting for the players now. They're just picking their, of course, strategies, their options and so on. Will there be any rain? Usually there isn't in Singapore, but as we've seen in the past, there actually is potential to have that. So let's see what happens. Like I say, just waiting for the drivers to pick their strategies and so on. So whilst we're waiting, let's see what the Drivers' Championship is saying. Like I say, NSX Selly, 120 points, followed by Gatkowski on 105. Those are the 2 men on form. And those are the 2 men who are going to be going soon enough when the lights go out. 5 laps now. And we are away here in Singapore. Who got the best initial start? It looks to me like Volcano actually got a really good start there from the front. But it actually Selly who keeps it into first place in this turn 1. But looking at that now, Cucumber down the inside of Cal. Oh, there's a bit of contact there from the Haas and the Ferrari. Ferrari of Spanish trying to go around the outside of Cucumber. Can he make it stick on those hard tyres? It looks to me like a lot of the drivers on different strategies already. And it looks as well like the Ferrari is going to get the move done on Cucumber there in the Alpine. Yes, it is. But Selly at the moment out in front from Volcano, who's already on the back of him. Is he going to try and make a move down the inside going towards the end of this long straight? Yes, he is. Already it takes the lead on those medium tyres. Exactly what he needed to do. Gatkowski keeps it in P3. But it's Volcano who's the man on the move here. Selly slots into P2. Gatkowski in P3 on those hards. And Carl as well. Great star as always in P4. Limitless as well. Makes a position from the start as well. Up into P7. But Cucumber down 2 positions. Not the start he's going to want to see. As we go through towards the old Singapore sling now. Everybody seems to settle down as we go through into this section. Yellow flag. One of the cars are out of the race. Virtual safety car already deployed. So it looks to me like one of the Alfa males. Is it Lezard potentially? Is he out of the session? No, he's just spun the car. He's back there now, but I believe he's lost his front wing, so that's not what you're going to want to see. Let's get these things. Yes, he's not quite there, I'm afraid. But let's see as we get everything ready on the screen. You see the tyres that are on there. Looking at that now, a few different things going through for the drivers there. Volcano really did what he needed to do and got that start that he wanted. Didn't quite get him off the line, but of course used his ERS and made sure he got past Selly at the end of the first back straight. So let's see when this virtual safety car ends. Let's see what pace Volcano has. Will he be able to pull away from Selly? Will he be able to get the Aston Martin away? And of course, with that said, get his first win of the season. A man who's only had a podium once, believe it or not. A man who's always shown good pace, but he's not had the best of results. Of course, got tangled up with Limitless as well at Silverstone, and that's caused issues as we are now back to green flag racing. Selly seems to be caught napping there. There's actually one in the background as well. Carl in the Haas under pressure already from Spanias in that Ferrari, as is Cucumber right in the back of himself. So let's see what goes on between those guys. Interested to see if they can get oh, we've got another yellow flag. Actually, somebody retired in the pit lane. Fair enough. So the Ferrari under attack from Cucumber. Will Cucumber try and make anything down the inside? No, he doesn't. Way too far back out at the moment. Limitless, of course, lingering in the background as well with the sister Ferrari of Marios. So let's see potentially what's going to happen with these drivers now as we go through the middle sector. It looks like Spanias doesn't really have the best of grip at the moment on those hard tyres. Cucumber, though, keeping with him. What about Carl? He's moving forward. He doesn't want to be a part of this at all. He's actually moving towards Gatkowski, of course, there. And Cucumber really is on the back now of Spanias. Will he try and get a move into the hairpin? No, he's a bit too far back. As we go through now towards this right-handed corner, 90-degree right-handed corner. Will he try and go down the inside? No, again, he's just a bit too far back. As we see a move down the inside, the Alpine on the Aston Martin, and Mavros is through on the inside. Will, though, we see the Aston Martin destroyed, trying to go back around the outside? Surely not. No, he tucks back into the slipstream. And potentially, like I say, we could see some more overtakes going into this section of the track, which is hopefully what we're going to see in real life as well. But as we go through to end lap 2 and the start of lap 3, Volcano pulls away a bit more from Selly, 7/10 of a second now, and it looks like he's going to try and stretch the legs of that Aston Martin. Selly, though, is going to want to do everything he can to keep within that DRS, and you see it there, he's only got 30% ERS left because he wants to keep within the DRS of the car in front. Gatkowski behind once again Selly, a man who's very patient in the races, must be said. A very patient driver is Gatkowski, and he's going to do everything he can, I'm sure, to win this race once more and make it back-to-back victories for him and the Mercedes team. Carl, once more though, a man who shows really good pace in qualifying, sometimes doesn't have the best race pace, but he is doing really well this race so far, keeping it with Gatkowski, of course, in the Mercedes. Of course, on the medium tyres as well is Carl, so interested to see what strategy he'll be able to do if we have any safety cars or anything. In the background as well, we see Limitless in P7. He's under a bit of attack from Marios in the Ferrari. Limitless just doesn't seem to have the pace on the hard tyres currently. It'll be interesting to see what he can do at the moment. Going in towards the Anderson Bridge now. He locks up the outside wheel as well. It just looks to me like Limitless, whenever we ride on board with him in the races that we've had, he just doesn't seem to quite be at one with this car, with this game, really. He's just not found his feet really as such, which is ironic to say, of course, earlier in the season, championship leader won 2 of his first 4 races. So, yeah, really interesting to see that kind of change that this has had on him. But let's see as we go further down the field. Is there any drivers on a mission here? Looks to me like Anru could potentially have a move on Stefano going into the final section of the circuit. No, he keeps better of it as Volcano sets a fast lap. But then Selly and Carl, look at that, the fast laps come thick and fast for everyone. Carl, the fastest man on the track at the moment, 31.9. Selly is not being left for dead by Volcano here. Volcano, yes, has a lot more ERS to play with, but it looks to me like Selly is just doing what he can. Gatkowski as well, he's definitely under pressure from Carl, who is the fastest man on the circuit at the moment. So let's see what he can do in the Haas. Interested to see if he can get a really good points haul today, because I think that's a driver who, all the trials and tribulations he's had this season, deserves so much more. Only one podium to his name. You know, he could have so many more, potentially even a win on one of the races this season. So let's see what Carl can do now as we start to settle down in this Grand Prix. Going through now Limitless, like I say, in P7. He really needs to kind of buck up his ideas. He wants to get his championship charge back on course. Cucumber as well, a man who had a brilliant race result, of course, in Hungary. And look at that already. Spanias, look at that. Already used his entire ERS, and this is not the best track for gaining ERS back. So it's going to be intriguing to see what he can do. He is still within the ERS of Carl, but he's going to lose that very quickly, Carl being on the mediums and, of course, with no ERS. As we see on the down the order, actually, it's just that the Williams swap positions. Looks like there potentially could have been a bit of contact there, but hopefully for their sake there isn't. Yes, it goes through down the inside, Anru as well. But as we say, going through the back through the field, Spanias, 3% ERS, that's not what he's going to want to see. Go through the final section of track now. Like I say, this is a really, really hard track to gain the ERS back, so Cucumber is surely going to be the man who has every opportunity to overtake now. As he almost loses it, Cucumber as well. He looks so twitchy. As Anru retires from the session, is that on in the pit lane, should I say, or is that, no, he DNFs. Is that on the pit lane? No, he's crashed in the main straight. So Anru crashes on the main straight. Is that going to be a safety car potentially for the drivers? Of course, saw a virtual before he crashes out the final corner. No safety car, surprisingly. But Anru, who rode on board within qualifying, has now crashed out. Just had a battle with his teammate and is now out of this race. But hopefully for their sake, he didn't have any problems as teammates. But like we say, Spanias, the Cucumber and Limitless, who's now coming onto the back of this group, kind of dropping Marios in the sister Ferrari. But it looks like at the moment Limitless is really pulling on the back. We've got another yellow flag at the final corner. Is that for Sklav? No, I don't think that's. I think Lezad actually. Yes, it is Lezad. And the safety car deployed. Safety car is out. So I believe Lezad crashed out the session as well, as did Anna in the exact same place, ironically enough. So let's see what the drivers do now. Of course, the hard runners won't be pitting anytime soon. What about the medium runners? It'll be a ballsy decision to try and take hards to this entire race distance, but it can definitely be done. You will be very vulnerable at the end, but of course it's a free pit stop at this point, so I'll be interested to see what Carl and Volcano do. You don't want to get stuck in traffic if you're those drivers as well, though. So if I was them, as Gatkowski leaves, no, Gatkowski leaves the session. That's not what we want to see. No, this happened to him a few races back as well, and it cost him. It cost him a lot of places, a lot of points, so hopefully he can get back into this session. But Volcano, does he come into the pits? Yes, he does. Selly comes into the pits as well. And Gatkowski left out to dry. Every single driver seems to be pitting. Spanias isn't, though. A few of the front runners pit. Gatkowski's out in front. If he was still in this lobby, maybe he'd have done it slightly differently, but it looks to me like Volcano is limitless. Those are people. Volcano, Marios goes through as well. Selly, and of course Carl on those mediums goes into the pits. So for Volcano and Carl, it might be a brilliant decision from them, putting those hard tyres on and going towards the end of the race. But what about Selly? He's on those medium tyres. He can't get those to the end of the race, surely not. 20 laps on those mediums. Yes, it could be done, but you're definitely getting into puncture territory for them as the drivers come out the pits now and are basically in last position. So let's see what can happen here. As Gatkowski, like we say, fortunately for him, not in this session any longer. Let's hope he can get back in, because this is not how you like to see races decided, especially for a man who's on such a brilliant run of form. And no, he's been overtaken by the drivers, and I mean, he's been let back through, so maybe, just maybe, they're getting a legal overtake for doing that. But oh, it's just such a shame to see for Gatkowski. Threw himself into championship contention, and this would really be a very big stab in the heart for him if he can't get back in this session. So interested to see there. Throwing a bit of a lifeline for Spanias, this safety car, as almost said, a man who, yes, Gatkowski's back in the session, good to see there. So he'll be back in for when the safety car comes back in, potentially at the end of this lap if we get all the drivers bunched up. So hopefully we can get Gatkowski back in this session in that car. But yes, like I say, Spanias really needed this safety car to come out. He needed to save his ERS, and he's had that now. But looking at the drivers, it looks like Cucumber as well, who was right on the back of Spanias, as was Limitless on the back of Cucumber. So they're going to obviously see what happens as they bunch the field up. Gatkowski doesn't seem to be back in his car yet. It looks to me like it's the AI still controlling it. So like I say, hopefully for his sake he can get back into the car and start controlling it, because like I say, he's a driver. Yes, is he back in the car? I believe so. Oh, is it starts to lag actually? Yes, I think he's back in the car. Good to see there. As Eagle, as we missed before, actually got a 3-second time penalty. But yes, he's back in the car. It's Gatkowski, so that's really good to see. So we've got a good race in our hands now. Maybe Gatkowski wanted to pit, we're not sure. But of course, we're going to see what happens when these drivers start the race once more. So let's see where these drivers have come out. So Volcano, P10, Selly P11, and Carl in the Haas P12. So almost at the back of the field. They're going to want to be really careful getting through the field now, because of course, yes, it's a free pit stop, but with all the drivers you have to get past, and of course as well how much your tyres will die towards the end of the stint, this is very risky for those drivers. Very, very risky. So I'll be really intrigued to see what can be done for them as we go through now. I believe the safety car should potentially be in this lap, which will be good to get the racing back now. So hard runners potentially could be coming in lap 15 onwards is my prediction. Get those medium tyres on, of course, with lower fuel as well. So let's see what happens there. Going through the middle sector of the lap now. Really intrigued to see from my side of things, I'm sure you guys watching as well, what the time difference will be after the first lap. Will Gatkowski have pulled a bigger gap on the guys who've pitted already, Volcano, Selly, Carl, who of course were ahead of him in this race? But like I say, with the traffic that they have to get through, and this is not the best circuit for overtaking, let's not forget that. Yes, they've got rid of basically the entire final sector to make it just a straighter line, but even with that said, it's not the easiest place to overtake us. Yes, safety car is in this lap, so Gatkowski now in the black Mercedes, the man on form, the man who won the race last time out in the land of the rising sun, that was Japan, has thrown himself into championship contention. I'm sure he'd love for the race to finish right now. Of course, he'd lead the World Championship, getting 25 points on Selly, but of course we've got a lot of racing here to do in Flashpoint before we can get the end of the race results coming through. So let's see when Gatkowski goes. The final few sections of the track now. When will he decide to go? He's keeping it nice and late. He wants to punch the pack all the way up. And there's going to be a moment now as he decides to go. Yes, he does. Going through the final few corners of this track, and he's left Spanias for absolute dead now as he goes through the final few corners. He's definitely had a great restart compared to the Ferrari behind him. And what can Spanias do from Cucumber? But it looks to me like the drivers as they all go shooting through now. Let's potentially see what the drivers can do in the background of Volcano. I'm intrigued to see what he can do. Could he go down the inside? Yes, he can. On his championship rival potentially. Yes, he does. Goes through on the inside. Volcano, a man who of course wants to throw himself into the championship contention. A bit of an outsider with the few races that we have left. But Selly doesn't want to waste any time now. Already through on those medium tyres. What can he do now on the Alfa Romeo? Already on the back of him, side by side almost. We go through the kink right-hander here towards the final part of the first sector. Will he try and go around the outside? Potentially can. Yes, the Alfa Romeo thinks better of it. And in the background as well, there's a bit of battling going on with Carl and Mavros as well in the Alfa Tauri there. As Mavros almost goes to the back of the Haas. But it looks like Selly's the man with the best restart. He's already up into P9. Now going to be on the back of Walcott in the Williams. And is he going to try and get a move down the inside going towards the old Singapore Sling? No, he doesn't. Thinks better of it, of course. The Anderson Bridge potentially into the hairpin is an overtaking spot, but he'll take a bigger man than me to attempt that one. What can Selly do? Will he try and make the move down the inside? It looks like he looked for it, yes, but he didn't quite go for it. I think he's setting it up into this final part of the second sector. Yes, and looking at that now, look, he actually gets out of the way, does Walcott, so he doesn't want any part of Selly now. What about his teammate though? Stefano surely will get out of the way. And already as Volcano gets down the inside of the Alfa Romeo as well, yes, just about stops for the corner. And looking at Carl as well, yes, he's going to go around the outside and the Alfa Romeo just dropping places. And it looks to me like Selly, yes, already through on Stefano, so Stefano didn't want any part of that as well, but that's almost put him under threat from the Williams behind him of Walcott. Yes, it does, side-by-side action, but thankfully no contact there. And Selly up from P12 to P7 in less than a lap. Great restart from himself, and Gatkowski is only 5 seconds up the road, so it's not looking like that potential call is a bad one as Volcano goes down the inside as well, right back onto the back of Stefano, Selly's teammate. So let's see what he can do now. Will he stretch those hard tyres to the end? More importantly, will Selly be able to stretch those medium tyres all the way to the end? Of course, 23 laps it will be on those tyres as he gets in. Carl on the inside of the Williams as well. Yes, gets the move done now. Is Selly on the inside of the sister Aston Martin? Yes, he is. And looking at this now, Selly already up into P6. What a restart from himself. In just over a lap, he's been able to get from P12 to P6, 6 positions. And he's now already on the back of Marios. And you can see the leader of Gatkowski just up the road. He does not care about what tyres he's on, what strategy he's on. He is doing absolutely everything he can to make this race his own, potentially for himself. He could do a 2-stop race now as well if he needs to. But looking at this, we see more moves going down the inside. Volcano, yes, gets down the inside of Stefano, and that's going to put him in a massive train. Now looking behind into the end of the Anderson Bridge, Volcano is through. What about Carl though? Can he get on through past Stefano, of course a teammate of Selly, who will want to try and hold these guys up as much as possible. He defends the inside line, but it looks like it might just be a formality going around the outside now for Carl on the fresher tyres. Yes, it is. Gets through. Great move from himself. And it looks to me, as we see Selly already on the back of the Ferrari, will he try and get a move down the inside going towards the final section of track? No, he doesn't. As we see Mavros on the inside of Stefano as well. Great move for himself going through the final section. Some better racing we're seeing around this Singapore circuit now. And look at this, Selly practically pushing the Ferrari through the final corner. And it looks to me like as we go through towards turn 1, he's already going to have the move done up into P5 as Eagle goes through on the inside as well as Stefano. Stefano spun at the final corner. Yes, he has. Has he crashed out? I don't think he has. I think he's just spun. As he goes through, yes, he has just spun. But as we see the Haas driver of Carl through as well, and Frankis on the inside of Walcott, great move from himself. But looking at this now, Selly already right in the back of Limitless, who was his championship rival, of course, early on in the season. And looking at this now, Selly is absolutely on a mission. He can see the race leader. He can see the person that he needs to beat in this Grand Prix, and of course, the rest of the season. What will he do? Will he try and throw a kamikaze move down the inside? No, he thinks better of it. Like we said, consistency is Selly's game. He doesn't try and go for kamikaze moves. He just, almost like a professor like Alain Prost, just gets the points when he's needed. So let's see as we go through now to the old Singapore Sling, onto the Anderson Bridge as they open up this corner. Let's not forget a few years ago this corner was so much tighter, but of course they opened up onto a different section of the bridge and made it easier for moves to be done into the hairpin. You see Limitless really on the back now of Cucumber. Will he be able to get a move done? But more importantly, will Selly be able to get a move down the inside? Don't think he'll be able to. No, he doesn't. Well, look at the traction that he gets out of this corner now. It's a different world for Selly in that Alpha Tauri. Let's see what he can do. Will there be any DRS now this straight? No, there isn't. They don't actually have DRS down here, which is a shame, really. I think there is definitely potential for it. But no, he's not been able to get through as Limitless. And Volcano, should I say, gets through on his teammate of Destroy. So he's through now in that Aston Martin. So let's see now. Selly gets the... Oh, is there a spin? Yes, there is. It's Marios. Yes, Marios in the Ferrari. He spins coming out the final corner. Yet again, the final corner claims another victim. And Marios... Oh, is it another Alfa Romeo? Yes, Alfa Romeo as well. Sklar spins too. That final corner is just gaining such a reputation this race as a car killer. And that has absolutely ruined Marios's race in that Ferrari. Out front as we go back to the front, no safety cars or anything like that. Gatkowski still in P1. Look at Selly now down the inside potentially of Limitless. No, he's still stuck behind there. A bit of a train going through as Mavros gets down the inside of the Aston Martin of Destroy. And Carl up into P7 right behind Volcano and Selly. So the three drivers who pitted on the safety car are still nose to tail. And look at that now, Selly pushing the Red Bull along of Limitless. He does not want to get held up any longer behind him, but he just cannot find a way past. Look at how much quicker he is though, as the helicopter shots really help us see how much he closes in on the Red Bull. And look at that now, Selly's so stuck behind the Red Bull that the Aston Martin of Volcano is right on the back of him as well now. So Selly's going to want to dispatch of Limitless as soon as possible. He pulls out to the outside. Will Limitless try and defend this one? It looks like he is doing down the outside. He does, and he doesn't quite have the opportunity to get through. And Limitless is going to be the worst roadblock in the world for Selly at the moment. But he is making that Red Bull as wide as possible. Looks to me like Selly doesn't quite have the straight line speed either to make a move going through the final section of the lap. And what a strategic race we have in front of us. 11 laps gone, 20 more to go. And look at this, Selly now, he's really on the back of Limitless. He's going to have to defend like crazy if he wants to keep this position as Limitless. As we go through towards turn 1, will Selly make that move? No, he doesn't. Yet again, he doesn't have the straight line speed. Oh, but Limitless runs it wide. He actually makes a mistake, goes down the inside, does Selly. Can he get the move done? Limitless still on the outside. He's going to hold it there. But it looks to me like Selly's going to get the better drive out the corner. And yes, he does. He gets the position done. What can Limitless do though? Can he get a better exit out of this corner? It looks to me like he has better straight line speed. Will he be able to get the move back on Selly? I don't think he'll be able to. Let's ride on board with the man. No, he doesn't. It looks like Selly's actually going to try and get a move on Cucumber already, looking to attack the guy in front of him. Yes, he is. Will he try and get down the inside here? No, he thinks better of it yet again. Like I say, he's not looking for these kamikaze moves, but Limitless made the mistake, and that puts Selly on his rear wheel. And of course, when he's side by side, you've got to give him space, and space he did give him. Now Limitless being harassed by Volcano. Of course, the last time these two fought on track, they actually came together, which was such a shame to see at Silverstone. Thankfully, at the moment, the racing has been really good in this lobby. Selly though, I think, did Cucumber make a mistake? Or was there a bit of contact? Potentially a bit of contact, but either way, Selly gets through on Cucumber, and now he's up into P3. The man who pitted went out into P12. Looked like a bit of a mistake at the time. He's proving me wrong. Up into P3. Who am I to question the decisions of the man who's leading the World Championship? Up into P3, and he's going to be right in the back of Spanias in that Ferrari. A rather twitchy fire as we see down the inside. Volcano, yes, on Limitless. Gets the move done. Limitless knows that's not his battle. What about Frankie's on Destroy as well? Yes, gets another move done in the Haas. Carl stuck in P7 at the moment, as we see Stefano and Marios having a bit of a battle as well in the background. And Scarv, who of course had that spin, and Selly up into P2. Yes, he is already through into turn 1, and already as Igor takes P10 away from Destroy into the point paying position now for Igor. But look at Selly on a mission. Yes, he's on fresh mediums. Yes, potentially they could drop off at the end of the race, but this is an absolute masterclass in overtaking so far from Selly. All the cars nose to tail. But Gatkowski owes Marios. Yes, he's retired from the session. Has he crashed? Oh no, I believe he's retired in the pit lane. But Selly once again takes the race lead. Carl on the inside of Limitless as well gets through. Cucumber runs wide. Will that mean Carl goes around the outside of him? Potentially. He has to leave him a bit of space. He does. Limitless can almost sniff a chance to re-overtake Carl. But no, he can't quite get back past. Cucumber made a mistake, and that's put Carl in the Haas right behind him, and that has also put Mavros in the Alpine down the inside. There's a bit of contact. Yes, there is. Oh, it's Limitless pinched him to the corner. Mavros thankfully didn't seem to lose anything in that, but Limitless definitely on the edge of what is allowed here in Singapore. But Limitless at the moment seems to be just falling back slightly. He's got a yellow flag in sector 1. I think one of the cars have just come back out of the pits. Yes, it is of Marius coming back out in the pit lane. But at the moment, Gatkowski, as Selly, of course, takes the race. Like we said, already 1.1 seconds clear. He's got no ERS left, though, because, of course, he's been doing everything he can to overtake these drivers and get back past. It'll be interesting to see. Like he could definitely do another pit stop, 100% do another pit stop, and he could win on a two-stop strategy, just the pace advantage that he's had. As we see Volcano, will he go down the inside? Yes, he does, actually. A brilliant exit from the final corner, up into P3. And now Volcano takes a spot step back on the rostrum, and if he gets back up to P2 as well with those hard tyres, he's destroyed down next a 3-second time penalty, which is not what you want to see. Well, like I say, if Volcano gets up into P2 when these drivers need to pit again, let's not forget Volcano and Selly have already pitted, as Mavros gets down the inside of Limitless as well. Yes, he does. Limitless falling back once more, and Mavros in that Alpine got the move done, but let's not forget, Selly and Volcano and Carl have pitted. The other drivers still need to pit. So almost halfway into this race then. We see one of the Hasses actually was getting close there. Yes, of Carl to Cucumber. Not quite through at the moment though, but Carl could potentially hit it down the inside here, going towards the end of the final part of the middle sector. Doesn't do that though, thinks better of it. Has more pace in those hard tyres than Cucumber does on his hard tyres at the moment, of course. A bit more left on his tyre, but they are going to be starting to wear and tear, and he's going to see the cars pull and come close towards him. Spanias once again though, no ERS left. Doesn't seem to be able to deal with the kind of problems that this circuit has in terms of gaining ERS. Volcano right on the back of Gatkowski as well, who's lost 2 seconds since being overtaken by Selly. Let's see what Volcano can do. Will he get this move done going towards the inside? Yes, he does. Volcano gets the move done. Sorry, I had a few technical issues there with my headset, but yes, Volcano gets the move done now into P2. And he, who of course pitted on the safety car and was in P1 at the time, is now back up into P2 at least, just behind Selly, who of course overtook him after the safety car restart. So let's see what Volcano could do with those hard tyres on. If he can pull closer to see Carl go down the inside of Cucumber into this corner. Yes, he just about makes it through. Cucumber and Mavros, the two teammates, don't want to cause any issues between them as well. And Limitless is now right on the back of this as well, as everybody starts to bunch up once more, starts to fight. Limitless trying to set up a move as we go through. Now look at the exit he potentially could have got there. So let's ride on board with the Red Bull man. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to get a move done. No, I don't think he does. He actually locks up his outside wheels as well. So gosh, it's not too balanced for Limitless at the moment. Like we say, this is the kind of place where the battle is on track at the moment. We've got Igor 5/10 behind that of Frankis as well in the sister Haas car. Limitless, like we say, at the moment, riding on board with him. Not quite had the opportunity to get past Cucumber currently, but let's see if he can keep it going, keep the pace, keep right behind, of course. Let's not forget once more, like we said, these cars have not pitted yet. Just to remind everybody watching, these cars have not pitted. The only people who have pitted is Volcano, Selly and Carl as well, who are already back in first, second and fifth place. Great restarts from them, but of course their tyres will be absolutely screaming at the end of this stint. But now Volcano and Selly, of course, are in P1 and P2 again. They have the luxury, of course, of being able to pit again when everybody else does as well. But looking in front as well, teammates going side by side once more. It's the end of the first sector. Mavros goes around the outside, gets the move done on Cucumber. Igor as well around the outside of Frankis as well in the Haas car. He definitely went around the outside there. Great move from himself from Igor, and also a great move from Mavros as well. Great clean racing between all four drivers there, which is amazing to see here in Flashpoint Racing League. Some of the fastest drivers you'll see in all of esports, but also the cleanest as well. So let's see. Oh, there's a big tank slapper there for Spanias, who still has no ERS left, as Gatkowski as well. Got a bit of a tank slapper there going through to the end of the Anderson Bridge. But now looking at Carl as well, of course, the man who's already pitted. He's going to be wanting to get through on the inside of Spanias, of course, who has no ERS left. So we'll be looking out to see that. Carl will know that too, because of course you can see that red flashing light on the back of the Ferrari. So let's see what Carl does. Will he try and use his ERS to get past? It doesn't look like he is doing. He hasn't got a lot in spare reserve either. The man who is definitely starting to close in is TRL Limitless. Will he try and get the undercut on these drivers? That's something that potentially could happen. Spanias is definitely thinking of doing that, and he does that. Goes into the pit lane now, and he's going to put on some medium tyres, surely, with 14 laps to go. So, Spanias into the pit lane. Let's see what tyres he puts on. Yes, it looks to me like it is medium tyres. Let's see what the stop says from Ferrari. It's a good stop. Looks like a 2.2 second stop. Must have been a good turn in from himself, and he's going to come out of the pits now, and he's going to be coming out in P11. So let's see what the drivers are doing now as we go through. Looks to me like Volcano, yes, he's still in P2. He's not really pulled away from Gatkowski, but of course those tyres of Volcano, he'll want to start to keep them in a nice place now, because realistically his whole aim to win this race is either to undercut Selly by putting some fresh medium tyres on, or of course is to try and overtake extend this stint. Do the entire race on those hard tyres. He almost loses it there once again at the Anderson Bridge. And hope that Selly either pits or loses his tyres towards the end of the race. And Selly, once again, like we said, he does not have the ERS to play with. Stuck on that 3% because, of course, there's just not really many places to charge the car up here. It's, believe it or not, even though it's a street circuit, it's quite a lot of full throttle sections, especially this new area here. It's just made life so much harder for the drivers in gaining ERS because there's just not enough slow sections of the track to gain. Let's see what Selly does. Will he pit? No, as Walcott gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. And that's not what you want to see. But hopefully for his sake he's not doing anything silly. Doesn't look like he is doing at the moment. Potentially could just come into the pit lane and retires. Limitless goes down the inside of Cucumber. I think he does. Yes, he does. Oh no, Cucumber's in the pit lane, should I say. Pit lane for Cucumber, so he's going to try and put some soft set of tyres on. As Carl gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. No, that's not what he's going to want to see. Oh, that's a terrible, terrible thing to see from Carl. A man who always seems to be getting these little penalties. And Walcott, another 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. So let's see now as Spanias gets down the inside. And Walcott, speeding into the pit lane. I think he'll be retiring. Yes, he does. Shame to see, but Cucumber, as he comes out in P10 now, where will he be compared to the rest of the drivers? Yes, out in P10. Spanias already down the road, so look at the undercut he got there. Spanias, of course, was already ahead of Cucumber, but of course the time that he gained was much more. So the undercut is massive here. So if Volcano wants to undercut Selly on a potential 2-stop, he has to do it now. But looking at that, look at the slide that he had through into the Anderson Bridge there. That does not look to me like a man who wants to stay out and take these tyres to the end of the race. But if it is, he needs to be very careful of his tyres. Very careful of his tyres. But we will see these drivers start to pit now. Selly and Volcano, just to remind you guys, as does Carl, do not need to pit. Gatkowski though, Limitless, Igor, Frankis still need to get into this pit lane. Still need to change tyres. Looking at them now, Limitless and Gatkowski don't have much left in the barrels. So, oh, is Gatkowski 5-second penalty speeding in the pit lane? No, that's not what he wanted either. Oh, yet again, this happened in Silverstone, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Gatkowski, who puts the fresh set of boots on, he's going to be so quick on those tyres, but he's not going to be able to do much with it if he got a 5-second time penalty. Looks like Frankis in the pits as well. Yes, it is, but oh, a horrible moment for Gatkowski as a 5-second time penalty. He comes out the pit lane now. Will Spanias get the overcut on it? Excuse me, the undercut on it? Yes, he does. Going through into turn 1 now. Goes through, he sets the fastest lap of the race, and he has got the undercut on Gatkowski. So Gatkowski's going to need a miracle now if he wants to win this race, or even let alone stand on the podium. As Destroy goes around the outside of Frankis, who comes out the pit lane. He's overtaken him. But at the moment, like we say, Selly doesn't need to pit again. Neither does Volcano. Neither does Carl. Mavros as well, only 13 laps. He pitted on the safety car also. Let's see what he's thinking of doing. Will he try and pit again? Don't think he will, but Limitless, the one man who hasn't pitted in this race at the moment, he just seems to be in a land of his own at the moment. Not sure what strategy he's trying to work, unless he's trying to wait for some sort of safety car or something, but currently he's just in no man's land and not really having that much of a race to talk about. So let's see now. Selly, once again, goes towards the final part of the lap. As you can see, still no ERS. He just cannot get that ERS back. You'll see a lot with the drivers. They'll stick themselves on a certain ERS and just stay there because they know that if they use it, they're just going to find themselves bleeding time because they won't be able to get it back. But Selly, yes, goes into the pit lane. He knows that he can do a 2-stop strategy now, so he goes into the pit lane. Potentially this will see Volcano stay out and try and go for that win as Carl stays out as well, as does Mavros. Limitless still staying out at the moment. Interesting to see what's going on with Limitless at the moment. He must be waiting for some sort of safety car. Let's see what Selly does though, because of course Spanias had a great undercut on them all. He's coming out the pit lane now. It's going to be really close with Spanias coming out the pit lane and sets another fastest lap. What can he see? There he is, Selly on the left hand side. He gets to cut the inside of the track. Doesn't look to me like he's going to be able to do it. No, he doesn't. Spanias retakes the position on Selly, and if everybody else pits, that could be a net race lead for Spanias in that Ferrari. Great move from him. What about Gatkowski? He's right on the back now of Selly on those medium tyres. Already up to temperature, already up and fired and ready to go. What can he do? Of course, he has got that 5-second penalty, but he'll want to get back past Selly on track. What can he do? Down the inside now towards the King. Yes, he's through on the inside, and it looks to me like Selly's given up this position. He knows he's got a 5-second penalty, and he lets him through. And Selly could have stayed out, but he knew his tyres would have absolutely fallen off a cliff, so he did what he needed to do and pitted. It's going to be interesting now to see what Volcano and Carl do. Will they try and keep out of the pit lane as 14 seconds now separates Spanias from the car in front of Limitless. Let's see what the gap towards the leader is now. Obviously Selly, of course, and the rest of the guys there and the lower points positions. But looking at that, Spanias only 20 seconds behind the race leader now. So I'll be interested to see what Volcano does as he comes towards the final corner now. He still stays out, so I think Volcano has committed himself to that one-stop strategy of pitting under the safety car. Could work out for him if he has Carl and Mavros as his rear gunners. Limitless as well stays out once more. He's waiting for a safety car, definitely. But it's going to be really interesting to see what time Spanias can do. And of course Gatkowski and Selly as well. He's going to want to pull in that gap as much as he possibly can. He's already shown an overtaking masterclass as Selly wants this race. Let's see if we can see it from him again. Doesn't have a lot of ERS to play with this time though, as you can see only 16% on his dash, whereas Gatkowski's got 40% and Cucumber is of course right on the back of Selly as well. As Carl actually, I believe, goes on the inside. Yes, he does actually go on the inside of Mavros, so Carl through. The Haas driver on the inside of the Alpine, he's got that move done, so Carl finally gets back past Mavros there. But Limitless again, once more, he's not being dropped back, it must be said, Limitless. As Igor on the inside of Frank potentially, or is it the outside? No, yes, it's the inside of the King just towards the end of the first DRS straight. Great move from Igor to get him back into the top 10. But Gatkowski, like I say, got that move done on Selly. But Spanias now, who's gained a second on Volcano in the last lap alone, that's without DRS. These guys are going to have to work together, but realistically, how big is the cliff? Because you've got 10 laps to gain 20 seconds. It's going to be a case where you have to gain almost 2 seconds per lap. But looking at it now, already down to 17.9 seconds. So it looks to me like Volcano is going to be very, very vulnerable towards the end of this race. But he's committed himself now as he goes around the final column once more to start lap 22. This could be a brilliant bit of driving for Volcano if he can get this race victory, but it's going to be so tough for him. Carl as well, and Mavros as well, to get towards the end of this race. Mavros is the man who realistically has got the most to lose here, because on those medium tyres, they're going to fall off the cliff anytime soon. I mean, looking at this now, Limitless, he's still right on the back of him, and that's on the older hard tyres, so it's going to show how quickly the soft tyres, excuse me, the medium tyres fall off the cliff. Like I say, at the moment, Limitless still not pitted, the only man in this race who have not pitted yet. Let's see the cars behind Selly on the back of Gatkowski. Yes, they want to race. Yes, they want to get through. But realistically, if they want to catch Volcano for this victory, they need to make sure they pull each other along. It looks to me like Gatkowski's going to get the move on the inside of the Ferrari. Yes, he does, going through the end of the final part of the first set. A bit of contact, bit of bumping, bit of barging. The Ferrari round the outside, gets back towards the inside. Can Gatkowski get round the outside? It's great racing from the three of them. Almost three wide as we go through the next left-hander, but Gatkowski gets the position, and Selly is now going to look to try and get down the inside as well of the Ferrari. Can he get through on the inside of this next session? It'll be a ballsy move if he can do. Don't think he can. He tucks it in hand. Yes, he does, as a retirement from the session in the pit lane from Sklav in the Alfa Romeo. But it looks to me like Selly thought better of it. Can he try and get a move down the inside, or is Cucumber going to try and get a move as well? He sets up a move going through the end of the Anderson Bridge. It's going to see who gets the best exit here. So Cucumber, let's ride on board with Selly. He doesn't seem to have the straight line speed really in this race, is one thing that we've seen, but he needs to dispatch this Ferrari as quickly as possible if he wants to get back through to Gatkowski, of course, who has that 5-second penalty. One thing he does not want to see is Gatkowski run off into the distance, as Limitless down on the inside of Mavros, who goes into the pit lane. I think he's realised those tyres are not going to get him to the end of this race. That's a rear gunner gone already for Volcano and Carl. Limitless into P3, like we say, is still not pitting. He is waiting for that safety car. I think he knows realistically the only way he's going to get a good result in this race is if a safety car comes out. So can't really blame him for trying. Let's see what Mavros does now. And of course, looking at that as well, down into P11, it's not been the race for himself. He tried something, he did everything he could, but unfortunately it's not worked out for him. And unless the safety car comes out as well, it looks like Limitless won't have it either. But Selly on the inside, yes, he's got the move done on Spanias in the Ferrari. The AlphaTauri up another position just in front of him there, Gatkowski as well. But look at that, the lights flashing here in Singapore as Eagle once again gets down the inside of destroying the Aston Martin up into P8. Another brilliant move from himself. But look at the lights flashing. Selly and Spanias not got the ERS to utilise. Gatkowski could potentially pull away here. But let's see what happens as Cucumber once more as well, right on the back of Spanias in that Ferrari. But like we say, Volcano pitted under the safety car at the start of this race. 17 laps on those tyres. Carl pitted under the safety car. 17 laps on these tyres. Limitless still not pitted. He needs to go into the pits, but of course it looks to me like he, like we say, is waiting for a safety car to come out. So let's see what he does. He's going to have to wait as long as possible realistically, but the tyres will be crying enough sooner rather than later. So let's see the times now. Look at that. 13 seconds now between Gatkowski, Selly and Volcano. And unless Gatkowski can pull away, looks to me like Selly is going to be the man who takes this victory. Limitless finally admits defeat, comes into the pit lane, and it looks to me like as he puts on a set of soft tyres, I believe, yes it is, he will probably be out of the points in P11 behind Mavros. Not a great race for himself, but look at this now as well as Igor gets through. Yes, sorry, that's everybody getting past Limitless in the pit lane. Selly, though, look at that, right on the back of Gatkowski. Gatkowski's going to want to make sure he doesn't lose as much time here as possible with that 5-second penalty. Will he let him through on the inside? Yes, I believe he does. And yes, he does indeed. Selly through on the inside. And it now means with 7 laps to go, 12.3 seconds separate Selly from Volcano. This would be one of the greatest Flashpoint Racing League victories if only if Selly can win this race from Volcano. Let's see what Volcano is doing at the moment. He's got 35% ERS. Carl as well, of course, who has that 3-second time penalty, will potentially act like a rear gunner for Volcano, but realistically we've got to look at the pace now of Selly. Can he pull in that 11-second gap with 7 laps to go? The tyres are so much younger, the tyres are so much fresher, so much more grip on the AlphaTauri instead of the Aston Martin, but of course track position here can be crucial, especially through the middle sector, as Stefano unfortunately leaves the session, of course, after retiring in the pit lane. But Selly again, no ERS, and that's going to something that could haunt him. But as the gap closes on 10 seconds, as Carl, is he into the pit lane? Yes, he is. So potentially, oh, has he got a puncture? I think he might have a puncture. Into the pit lane? No, I actually don't think he does. I think he just missed the pit lane, which is not good to see for himself. But with that guy, there's no rear gunner, and there's nothing separating now Volcano and Selly, but Carl again into the pit lane. He tried something, it didn't work out for him. Let's see what the pit crew do. Didn't look to me like there was a puncture at all. No, it was front wing damage, so he must have hit the wall. Coming out the final few sections of corner, and that's meant that Carl is now down into P11. And looking at that now, you don't really see this often. Carl, Limitless and Mavros in 9th, 10th and 11th, usually so much higher up. But Selly now 9 seconds behind the race leader of Volcano. Gatkowski's going to do everything he can to pull away from Cucumber to get on the podium, otherwise he is not going to be able to do it. So, with the fastest lap at the moment as well is Cucumber, but surely that will be obliterated by one of the soft runners of Mavros or Limitless sooner rather than later. Looking now, Selly, only 8.4 seconds, getting ever closer as the laps close in and the laps come further and further to the end. 8 seconds separate Volcano and Selly in the Aston Martin and in the AlphaTauri. So let's see. 7.8 now. Under 8 seconds. Every corner he seems to be getting closer and closer. And of course this is without ERS to deploy. Volcano doesn't really have much to defend with either. So it's interesting to see now what this will be like. Like I say, 5 laps to go after this one. And it looks to me like Volcano is starting to cry enough on these tyres. 7.3 seconds. It's going to be so tantalisingly close for him. But unless he can keep that car on track a second a lap quicker, which at the moment he's not been able to do, it looks like Selly's going to stroll to an easy victory. But of course, anything can happen in Formula 1 sim racing, and it usually does. So let's see what Selly can do now. Gatkowski as well. He's not being left behind by Selly by any means. But of course, I think he understands with that 5-second penalty, it makes more sense for him to pull Selly along, to allow Selly to pull him along towards that of Volcano and pull away from Cucumber. See one of the Haas drivers going around the outside, potentially the Aston Martin to destroy a bit of bumping and barging there, went off the track, got back through the inside of the next corner though, as everyone seems to be really struggling with ERS at the moment, looking through the field. Looks like 38% is the most, and that's for Carl on those medium tyres. But yeah, everybody seems to be really slowing their pace down at the moment, trying to get towards the end of Limitless. Let's see if he's going to try and go for a fastest lap actually. But look at that now, 5.8 seconds separates first and second place. So unless Volcano can have some incredible defending, it looks to me like it's a bit of a formality at this point. Yes, it will be close. Yes, it will run to the end of the race. But with the tyre difference at the moment, the gap each lap is just going to get smaller and smaller. Yes, it's 5 laps to take 5.4 seconds, but yes, the tyres on Volcano are so much older, so much slower, so much stiffer then Selly. And look at that now, only 5 seconds, just over 5 seconds separates the top two. As Gatkowski gets 3 second time penalty as well. No, that's another mistake from Gatkowski that he did not need to make. And because of that, he is going to be languishing down in potentially 5th or maybe even 6th place. The limitless across the line, 31.6, doesn't get the fastest lap. Let's see now, as we're finally under that 5 second mark now, as Carl with 30.2, fastest lap of the race, takes that point away from Cucumber at the moment. Of course, Carl won't get that point because he is not in the top 10. But look at this now, as Mavros down the inside of Destroy as well. Yes, going towards the end of the first sector. Good move from him on those fresher, soft tyres. But this is what we're looking for at the moment now. 4.2 seconds. You can see your enemy in front of you. Selly can see who he wants to attack in the Aston Martin. Down to 3.9 seconds now. And with 3 laps to go after this one, 4 laps to go after this one, it almost seems like a formality at this point. Who knows at this point, because of course, like we say, of course, catching is one thing, but overtaking is a complete different thing. But Selly, yet again, closing in every single corner. This is going to be a grandstand finish, this Flashpoint Racing League Tier 1 race here in Singapore, as Mavros gets down the inside as well of Frankis, who potentially made a mistake there, but he's through on the inside, and Mavros now back up into P7, but with those penalties could find himself languishing back down in P8 when Frankis finishes behind him. Cucumber at the moment as well will inherit a podium because of the stakes, because of the 5 second penalty and the extra 3 second penalty that Gatkowski's had, and would also as well put Spaniato into P4, so let's keep an eye on them. But 2.5 seconds, you can see Volcano up ahead, you can see his prey, he can see the race victory, and another hand firmly on the Flashpoint Tier 1 trophy. So let's see what Selly can do. You can see Volcano's light flashing as well. He knows he's struggling on those hard tyres. He knows he's a sitting duck to any attack if he can get close to him. Like we say, 3 laps after this one. 2 seconds is the gap, and of course an overtake. Oh, as he actually hits the wall there, does Selly. Hopefully for no damage. Yeah, as we go through towards the end of the Anderson Bridge now, 1.7 seconds. The gap just getting ever smaller now. And it looks to me Volcano potentially could be just resigned to taking 2nd place in this race, but who knows? Of course, Volcano will know that Selly is fighting for a championship. As we've got a yellow flag in the middle sector, is that Limitless? Potentially in the Red Bull, yes it is. He spun at the Anderson Bridge and he has lost some of his front wing, and this has been a terrible race for Limitless. And Carl through into P10, another terrible race for Limitless, not what he wants to see. The man who was leading the championship so early on in the season is now languishing in last position in this race. P11, no points will be scored for himself. But look at this now. 1.1 seconds separates 1st and 2nd place with 3 laps left to run. This is the type of finish to a race we all love to see in league racing. This is the type of things we like to see in Flashpoint. So let's see what happens now. He's got DRS. Will he try and get the overtake done this lap? I don't think he will. He understands he's got the time. But let's ride on board with Volcano as you see that AlphaTauri close in every single second of the straight. And just look how much more grip the AlphaTauri has to pull it down the inside. It looks like it's almost a formality at this point. But Volcano, let's not forget, he's not won a race this season. He knows Selly has a championship to fight for. Volcano wants this race victory. He's going to do everything he possibly can to keep this race victory away from Selly. I can assure you of that. He knows that Gatkowski has penalties. He knows that 8 seconds is going to be added onto his time. Oh, is he almost losing the rear end? Yes, he does, and that's going to put Selly down the inside. Yes, it's the end of the Anderson Bridge, and that's the mistake we did not want to see if you're a Volcano fan, and he has lost the position to the lead. And Selly, the championship leader, the man on pole position, the man who's 2 stopped in this race, retakes his lead, and Volcano, the man who seems to be the only person who could stop the onslaught from Selly today, fails at the final hurdle. But it's still a great race for himself to keep those tyres in good nick to get to P2. But with 2 laps to go after this one, Volcano resigns back into position 2. And Gatkowski's right in the back of him now as well, of course. 8 second penalties though for Gatkowski, so surely at this point, no matter what happens with Volcano, if he lets him through, he will still get a 2nd place finish. So with 2 laps to go, you can see Selly already as Lezard leaves the session. Limitless, like we say, has he got into the pit lane to fix that damage? Yes, he did. looking potentially to go for a fastest lap. Possibly could happen with 1 lap to go. But it looks to me like Selly, as look at that, Gatkowski right on the back of Volcano. Volcano knows, I'm sure, he doesn't need to fight this one, so he won't put up as much of a fight as he tried to against Selly. Gatkowski, what could have been from himself yet again. Seems to be the type of thing we ask with Gatkowski time and time again. What could have been? What could have been without the penalties? What could have been without the mistakes? Threw himself back into championship contention last time out in Suzuka, but Selly firmly trying to show now as down the inside goes Gatkowski. Is there any contact? Yes, there is. This seems to be a race that doesn't need to be had, but Gatkowski with the better traction gets through on the inside of the hairpin at the Anderson Bridge and is through into P2 on track. But of course, will lose that position when penalties are of course applied. So Volcano of course through now, down in P3. Great race for himself though. Will get back up into P2 unless he makes a mistake. But Selly starts the final lap of the race now. And what can you say about this man? Started the race up. Oh, as Gatkowski was really wide out the final corner. That could have ended in a disaster. But thankfully for himself, he kept it on the track. Yet another mistake from Gatkowski. Just doesn't seem to have the car under him this race, but has managed to kind of tiptoe his way around, essentially, in that Mercedes. But he's going to be languishing in P5 after the penalties are applied. But like you say, what can you say about Selly in the AlphaTauri? A man who's just so consistent. And you watch someone like this, league race, you watch the consistency, you watch the wheel knowledge that he has and how he applies himself and the brains that he uses in his racing. And it just makes you fall in love all over again with league racing and everything to do with Flashpoint Racing League. Selly 360, the NSX man who didn't really have much of a championship charge, we thought, at the start of the season. Came out the door absolutely flying. Won 2 of the 4 first races. Was stuck in a bit of a championship battle really with Limitless at the start. As speaking of which, he sets the fastest lap of the race at 30.1. But Selly, like we say, he's a man who's so consistent. Does everything he needs to do. Gets pole position time and time again. As we go through the final section of the track now, Selly 360, a man who surely has put one hand firmly on the Flashpoint Racing League trophy here in Tier 1 after another fantastic race victory here. From lights to flag it feels like, but he's had to do so much overtaking and a masterclass it was. Selly comes across the line and wins the Singapore Grand Prix. Another incredible race from him as Gatkowski finishes on track in P2, but Volcano will take the second place on the podium and the Cucumber rounds out the rostrum. The Spaniard finishing P4 and Gatkowski P5. What could have been for himself? Mavros's penalties applied as well. And Igor P6, great race from him. A great driver who I think really is up there for driver of the day in my opinion. P6 in the Mercedes, a fantastic race from him. Mavros in P7, Frankis in P8, P9 for Destroy, Carl in P10 and Limitless. Oh, I mean, what can you say? How the mighty have fallen. First few races of the season did absolutely incredible. And yeah, it's just not been the race. The last few races for him, has it really, to be fair? Limitless has just not had the time of his life, it must be said. But as he comes across the line now to finish the race, always finishes the races, does Limitless, and it's really good to see. But he comes across the line now, finishes P11, and that's not going to be what he wanted to see. But unfortunately for him, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes in league racing, and he's going to have to need an incredible last few races as Igor gets driver of the day from the game. And I must admit, I have to agree with that. I think that's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant piece of drive from Igor to get P6 in that Mercedes. Brilliant result, an incredible deserved result as well. I see once again such a familiar sight, Selly celebrating on the top of the podium. Volcano did everything he could today. A great P2, his best result of the season. That race win does still elude the Swedish driver, but I'm sure it will be coming sooner rather than later. As the champagne flies here in Singapore, another incredible race to watch, an incredible race to commentate on, and I'm so glad I could have you all here to watch it. But please join us once again next Wednesday, same time as always, for another brilliant night of league racing, and a brilliant, brilliant championship will soon be at its conclusion. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.